I'm Rachel Hollander, neuroplasticity coach and founder of Hollander Holistic Health. I guide clients in self-healing from chronic pain and medically unexplained symptoms. My YouTube channel provides educational interviews and recovery stories. And in this interview, I'm looking forward to talking with actor, director, and playwright Ben Grimes about the emotionally healing nature of acting. But before we get started, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel at Hollander Holistic Health to get more free videos like this in your feed. To tell you more about Ben Grimes, he is the managing artistic director of Market House Theater in Paducah, Kentucky, where he lives with his wife and two children. An actor, director, playwright, and U.S. Army veteran, Ben holds a BFA in acting from Webster University's Conservatory of Theater Arts and a Master of Public Service from the Clinton School of Public Service. His work explores the intersection of theater, community service, and storytelling, with a particular focus on creating spaces for connection, healing, and belonging. Welcome, Ben. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'll share a little bit about what led me to meet you,
Yeah.
and then we'll dive into this emotionally healing nature of acting.
Cool.
So in 2023, I took a beginner acting class of yours, co-led by your
hmm
wife, Laura.
Yeah.
And it
hmm
was during my own self-healing journey from years of chronic pain and neuroplastic
hmm
symptoms. It was a
hmm
few months after I learned about the mind-body model of
hmm
healing, and I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas. You were living there
hmm
as well at the
Correct.
time. And I had volunteered at the Arkansas Cinema Society Film Festival
Mm.
the previous fall, and I started to think about the connection with emotions, acting emotions, healing from neuroplastic symptoms,
Yeah.
emotions. And
Yeah.
so I signed up for the beginner acting class to explore that connection.
hmm
So, what do you think about that? And actually, maybe first, what led you toward involvement in theater?
So I've been in theater for the greater part of my life. I first discovered theater as a child. I was fortunate enough to be exposed to some youth programs for kids. I was not the best behaved kid. And the things that I got in trouble for when I was in school were the things that were celebrated in the theater. And so I found a home fairly quickly at a young age. Um, and I was able to find some success and was celebrated, for acting out, I guess. And so I went to a performing arts high school, which then led me to go to college for it, study it, and make it a living and make it a life.
Wow, I love that kind of organic story of how that
hmm
all happened for you. Yeah, and you've worked with, so you were in the army or the military.
Correct.
Tell us more about that
Well,
background.
the joke that I tell is that my acting career was going so well that I joined the army. Um, I never planned to go in the army. I was living in New York. I was trying to do the professional actor thing, and it's hard. It's a hard living to make, and to try to make a life out of. And the original plan was I was going to go to the army and use the GI Bill to then go back to school and get my Master's of Fine Arts in acting. And that didn't come to pass. But yeah, it was kind of a whim. I was just gonna go and do this thing and use the GI Bill, and also I wanted to challenge myself and do something that was different. Theater can be very self-serving, especially when you're in New York and you're trying professionally. It can be about feeding your own ego and about what my problems and me, and it felt icky to me, and so I wanted to try to do something to that was outside of that would maybe help somebody.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, so interesting. And you've
mhm.
worked with veterans with PTSD in the
Yeah.
realm of theater. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found during my service time, I experienced a lot of the same problems that some veterans have with PTSD and depression and anxiety. And one of the things that actually helped me was returning back to the theater and being able to explore characters again and kind of take my brain out of my head for a minute and kind of look at it through the lens of a character. And I thought, well, boy, there might be something to this, which led me down a kind of a field of study with theater for veterans and other at-risk populations. And I've that's been the kind of core of my work since then is using theater to create empathy and to also try to elicit healing in some fashion or form.
Yeah, I thought about that for myself and it seemed counterintuitive, but I kind of
Mm.
came to that realization that trying to get in touch with a different character, a
Hmm.
different character's emotions could kind of
Hmm.
help me get in touch with my own emotions.
It's in a safe way too, because we one of the things it's hard. We're oftentimes our worst critic, and we only have one vantage point, from the POV angle, right?
Point of
And
view. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so oftentimes we don't see our own blind spots, but we can see that in others, and we can see that in other characters. So as you're going through a play, one of the things that you as an actor, you're trying to figure out why is this person making the choices that they're making? Why are they reacting in the way that they're reacting? And you have to put yourself in their shoes and thus make a decision about how would I behave in that situation. And oftentimes you can find, oh, I do these things. And why do I do those things? And you start to kind of peel back the onion of your own, self through that practice of inhabiting another character.
Yeah, you're pointing out how it's hard for us to make the connection for ourselves about
Mm-hmm.
emotions, but it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to see in
Mm-hmm.
others, especially when it's all
Mm-hmm.
played out before you.
Right.
And that's so true in health and life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where, because I've been there, we don't see the mind-body connection for ourselves that, oh
Right.
yeah, these big stressors in life are directly
Mm-hmm.
related to how I'm physically feeling. But we can see
Absolutely.
it so easily in like people close to us. Or so
Yeah.
yeah, we can see it on the screen or we can see it in the theater, but otherwise
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, that's done now and we go back
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
living.
I had a boss once that used to say, "You don't learn by your own mistakes. You learn by watching others make mistakes." And I
Mhm.
think that's true because a lot of times, in talking about pain, the pain is too close and too real when it
Mhm.
happens to us, versus if it's happening to someone. If we watch it happen to someone else, we can learn and kind of extrapolate and find some lessons out of that. Oftentimes,
Mhm.
if it's us, it's a little bit harder to do that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, say more about your experiences with veterans with
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of wild. I've worked with a variety of veterans of all different ages, and at its core, you have that empathy gym, I will call it, which is theater. I think there's a quote that says that theater is the gym for empathy, and you go and do like empathy curls or whatever. But but there's that's a kind of a core principle. But then there's other principles that when I'm sure you're familiar with the Body Keep Score, that book,
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So when you go through a traumatic incident, oftentimes our brains can sometimes physiologically change and become kind of stuck in this what they call trauma brain. And that's all kind of frontal lobe, fight or flight, survival brain. And what theater does, and actually a lot of research has been done with the use of Shakespeare and the use of poetry and rhythm and that that empathy thing, it will slowly lull you out of that trauma brain and reawaken areas in your brain that you turned off to survive in a very subtle and gentle way. It's not like somebody comes and turns on a switch or hands you a pill. It is a very subtle process, but like I said, there's all kinds of research that show brain scans of people that have gone through programs. I have a program that's called The Breach. It's an 8-week program where we use Shakespearean text and kind of narrative therapy kind of concepts, and people feel better, and there's some research to kind of back it up. So,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
So people take this class with you
Mm-hmm.
and do they
Mm-hmm.
have to pay for it or how does this work?
No.
It's all veteran?
No, it's all free. It's all veterans and family members, I should say, because family members also serve, and oftentimes don't have the same access to resources that the service member
Mhm.
does. So you definitely want to open that up, cast a broader net there. But yeah, all veterans and family members of all different ages, and it's an 8-week course, and it's a free thing, and they come in and kind of looks like an AA group or something, it's very, circle of chairs, some coffee, but we're talking about our service and we're using Shakespeare's monologues that I've selected because Shakespeare wrote a lot about trauma and a lot about combat and all of that. So we use those as like jumping off points. So we'll look at, the Band of Brothers speech from Henry V, and we'll analyze the speech. And then I couple that with the Army values, which are there's 7 values, and it spells leadership, loyalty, duty, integrity, personal courage, selfless service, honor, and respect. And so those we'll look at those values and each week, and that kind of elicits conversation. And as people are kind of sharing and feeling more comfortable, and we're kind of creating this ensemble, I'm also starting to curate stories from them. And at the end of those 8 weeks, we do a public showing of little snippets of their stories that we call the breach. And it's a really fun night. We tell
Wow.
their stories in an artistic and theatrical way.
So
And you
it's
know, and
their stories as well as deal with Shakespeare as well, kind of.
correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And we tell them in a variety of ways. Not everybody just gets up and says, "This is my story, and I'm going to tell you," and it's a clear beginning, middle, and end. I've had veterans that never said a word. One veteran that I had walked on stage with a huge backpack full of weight, and she put it on the stage, and then she slowly pulled out bricks, and every brick that she pulled out was a negative,
Mm.
word, guilt, shame, whatever. And then she repacked her bag with positive things, family,
Mm.
friends, and that was her piece. And it was incredibly powerful. Not a word was
Yeah.
spoken. So yeah.
That right there is the foundation for neuroplastic healing,
Mm-hmm.
finding ways to process and remove the
Mm-hmm.
negative baggage or whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it, and
Mm-hmm.
then putting
Mm-hmm.
in the positive new
Mm-hmm.
associations
Yeah.
with the body and life
Mm-hmm.
and everything.
Yeah.
Is that called the Wounded Warrior Project that the
No,
veterans?
that's something different.
Okay.
There are several different projects around. I base the work that I do largely on a gentleman named Stefan Wolfert, who is a fellow Army veteran and works in Shakespeare. And he's actually partnered with clinical researchers, and he's the one that's doing the real research out there. I use some of his techniques along with a gentleman named Kurt Toffland, who does work with incarcerated people. He goes into prisons and uses Shakespeare to reach
I
those
think
those
there was a
populations.
movie based on that,
Yes, Shakespeare
and
behind bars.
it was
Mhm.
at the Arkansas Film Festival in
Oh,
like
cool.
2024 or
Yeah.
was able to see it then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
What
super
was
cool.
it
His
called?
name is Kurt Toffland, and he actually shout out to Kentucky. He is started at Kentucky Shakespeare, which is in Louisville. He's a phenomenal mind and intellect and shaman of of healing theater, trying to match what he's doing.
That's so great. So, there
Mhm.
was a few things that I remember from my time in this
Mhm.
beginner acting class that I thought
Mhm.
were kind of interesting takeaways for me. I
Mhm.
really noticed at the time how, that kind of connects with,
Mhm.
neuroplastic healing in
Mhm.
various ways. So one was before acting, at the
Mhm.
beginning of each session
Mhm.
you'd kind of guide us or let us have our freestyle, like getting out our emotional
Uh-huh.
energy so that I
Yeah,
guess going to act, you want to start from some kind of basic place, a
correct.
foundation of kind of like null emotion so that you can
Mhm.
take on the emotion that's appropriate. How
Mhm.
would you describe that?
Yeah, you wanna clean the slate, right? So, because we carry the stressors of life with us all the time, and in order to have more range as an actor, you want to lessen your own personal stressors so that you can apply them that as they apply to the character. So the things that you need to do is just control your heart rate and get yourself down to kind of as base level as you possibly can. You can build from there. But if you're, a level 10 of anxiety and your character is this like smooth talker, very, you know, suave kind of character, you're going to have a really hard time getting to that to that place. So calming yourself down, getting yourself down to that neutral place helps you to leap in and jump into that person's shoes.
It so applies to daily life.
Hmm.
I do a book club on Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and it's all
Yeah.
about, well, there's a lot of things in the book, but one of the ideas is mindfulness. And,
Hmm.
when you might be triggered by emotions, you
Hmm.
want to kind of be a silent, watchful observer of what's happening with your
Hmm.
thoughts and emotions,
Hmm.
and let things kind of go through you. And so if you are expressing out negative emotional energy when
Yeah.
it's safe and private to do that, and then you go
Yeah.
into life, you're going to go into life in a more effective way. So
Yeah.
I just felt like
Yeah.
it just applies so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, what I think of, I think we talked about this in the class, talk about silencing the inner critic or the
Mm.
third eye that every actor has. So every actor doesn't matter, the goal in acting is to like lose yourself in the character in the scene and everything kind of becomes fuzzy, right? The audience becomes fuzzy. You're just focused right in on your scene partner and you're pursuing an objective, whatever the objective is of that character, whatever that character wants. Very hard to do. It's like a Zen kind of, getting to that kind of level. You ride a wave where sometimes you're out of it and sometimes you're in, and but you're always striving to be in. And one of the things that will take you out is your third eye, your little inner critic that's like, oh, that line sucked, or that wasn't very good, or oh, why is that woman unwrapping, her cough drop on the front row? Does I can hear that. And
Or their
so
cell phone goes off.
yes, their cell phone goes off exactly, and so it has that little third eye and a little clicker that's kind of going. And the more you can silence that and be present in the moment, the better you're going to be as an actor. You can't. We really tried, Laura and I've tried to really instill that you can't, and with these preconceived, this scene's going to go this way, and I'm gonna cry on this line. That's not our approach to acting. Our approach to acting is much more organic and coming from a place of honesty and a place of openness, and just what your partner gives you, you react to it, and then you go, and you kind
Yeah,
of.
that was another major, insight I had in
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
class about the idea of present moment awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
same with healing or preventing neuroplastic symptoms or responding to
Right.
stress. The more you can
Right.
be mindful in the moment. So we did an exercise together, and maybe it has
Mm-hmm.
a particular name where,
Mm-hmm.
there's maybe a phrase or a sentence that you start
Mm-hmm.
with, like these chips are salty, and then you work off a partner.
Yeah.
Can you
Mm-hmm.
explain that a little bit
Yeah.
more?
So that's based in there's an acting teacher called Sanford Meisner who started the Neighborhood Playhouse. He was part of the original group theater. He's kind of one of the acting, gods that started method-based training in America. And he came up with this thing called the repeat exercise, which is all meant to get you as the actor out of your head and start leading with your heart or your gut, really. And so basically it's you have a blue shirt on, and you would say, I have a blue shirt on. You have a blue shirt on. I have a blue shirt on. And we would go back and forth until one of us had an impulse and go, well, you just nodded. You nodded your head. I nodded my
Mhm.
head. You nodded your head. And we would let that evolve as we observed things. And what it does is it gets your focus off of how am I feeling? Oh, what's going on? It's too hot in here. I didn't eat. I didn't get a chance to have a snack before we started class. Blah blah blah. Focused on your partner. And so,
Mhm.
and all your focus is external and not internal.
Yeah, yeah, you're just fully in the moment, really
Correct.
responding naturally. Yeah.
Hmm.
This idea of preparing for a role can help an actor
Hmm.
connect more deeply with themselves.
Hmm.
What do you think about that
It does. It
analogy?
open up things that maybe you are to subconsciously even to face. Perfect example, a character you're playing loses a loved one. I don't want to think about losing a loved one. I don't want to think about what how I would respond to that, but it allows me to kind of explore that scenario and put myself in that position. And and then evaluate if my reactions are just or not. Or even more, a character goes through an experience that you have gone through, and now you kind of are comparing, well, I reacted this way, and the character is reacting completely different. Was I right or wrong? But was I, what was the better reaction? And we can kind of compare and contrast and look at as human beings, I think, the lens of that character and allows us to kind of do some of the hard work. Again, quite so direct because
Hmm.
I'm talking about the character. I'm not talking about me, but I can kind of
Hmm.
compare, and so it's not quite so threatening to be right in our face.
Yeah. Yeah. You assigned all of us a particular
Hmm.
snippet of a play and a
Hmm.
scene partner to work with. And
Hmm.
my play was Rabbit Hole, and
Hmm.
it's
Love that play.
about a woman, especially, whose
Hmm.
son dies. And so it's
Hmm.
about that experience of grieving.
Hmm.
It was about going through his belongings and
Yeah.
again, I'm not any special actor, but I tried to get in touch with the grief of having, ended my job as a family doctor and
Yeah.
not knowing if I'd ever be a
Yeah.
doctor again or that way. And there's a lot of
Absolutely.
mixed feelings about it. And
Hmm.
yeah, I tried to get in touch with something there.
Hmm.
I imagine that's
Hmm.
probably what actors do when they haven't had that exact experience, like you're saying, they get in touch with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so one trick we use is a term called as if, right? So it's the magic if. If this were to happen to me, what would I do? How would I feel? We can do an emotional substitution and find a tragic loss. We haven't lost a child, but we've lost something that is important to us, and we can kind of almost transpose that into the character, some of those emotions and some of that feeling, prime the tank for when we step on that stage and we moment to moment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Else that you want to share on this general idea of emotional healing with acting?
I'll kind of go back to the Shakespeare bit, and the rhythm. There is something and breathing. So there is something to rhythm, and I don't know what it is, but I do believe there is really. So Shakespeare's written in iambic pentameter, which is just dee dum dee dum dee dum dee dum, which is the heartbeat,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so that's the first sound that we hear. It's the most comforting sound that we Shakespeare, that's the bass, right? And then he plays with that. He goes dum da dee, dee dum dee dum dum da dee dum dee da 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 da. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York, right? So I when I teach classes, I say he's spitting game, because he's playing with the rhythm to kind of play with us. But that heartbeat is something that is very comforting to us, as well as there have been studies shown that when audiences go watch a play, there is a point where all of their heartbeats will all sync up. So everybody's in the room. We're all kind of our heartbeats are in sync, and oftentimes we start breathing in sync as well. And so the communal aspect of that, there is something very, very healing in that act. And so, yeah, I think it's cool.
It makes you appreciate live theater.
Hmm.
We
Right.
watch all these
Correct. Yeah.
movies on our screens and
Hmm.
we're all
Hmm.
alone. But
Hmm.
yes, there's social contagion in symptoms and there's also
Hmm.
social
Hmm.
contagion in positive feelings. Wow.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
a
For
great
sure.
way to leave it off. Well, yeah. And Ben Grimes, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, is
Yeah,
that something that you'd be available to give
100%.
contact information? I can put it in the information at the bottom of the YouTube video. So
Yeah,
anything
please.
you want to
Yeah,
say
just
about that?
me. I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to like you can tell I'm kind of a geek about this work. So I'm happy to share notes, talk. Yeah, I'm happy to talk with you. It's a really great opportunity.
Awesome. Well, great. And so thank you, Ben Grimes.
Mhm.
And viewers, please like this video if it was effective for you and affecting for you. And subscribe to my YouTube channel at hollanderholistichealth.com to get more free videos like this in your feed. Good luck on your healing journey, your emotional exploration, acting, whatever it is that made you interested to watch this video.